of the Bhakti Vaibhav course.
चैट पे लिखो अगर साउंड आपका नहीं आ रहा
नहीं
Can Narasimha Prabhu, can you on this screen sharing?
Are you not able to share your screen, Prabhuji?
No.
Okay, let me just check, because this I am doing for the first time. But I will just check.
See,
okay, I'm just doing it. Who can share the screen? I'm doing it all participants. So I think you should be able to do it now.
Or ISKCON NVC is also the co-host, so I don't know if somebody there can do it.
But now you check, Prabhuji. I think I have made it. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, fine. Okay. Okay, let's start with Kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Maybe at least somebody can, one of you can unmute and follow.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namo Vishnu Padaya
Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Jai Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-Jana-Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Snapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just 1 second, I have to get the charger. So amongst brahmacharis, how many brahmacharis are attending?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, we are devotees here at NVCC.
Hmm.
12, Prabhuji, total 12 devotees are
Today.
Acha.
Right now.
some more are going to come in some time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it has reduced from 40 to 12, huh?
Some are online also. So,
पूरा number
Acha, besides the classroom, there are some others online.
some are.
Mm-hmm.
वो 16 are online project.
Acha, 16 brahmacharis are viewing separately online.
Total number online is along
7.
with the congregation and brahmachari is total 70 online.
70.
17.
Previously, it was 70. When we started, there were 40 brahmacharis and 30 congregation.
This 17 number may be slightly misleading because in one login there may be more than one devotee also from congregation.
Okay, that's also true. Mhm. In any case, that's the nature of the material world. I think so. We can't help it. So, steadiness is always a great challenge on the path of devotional service. Okay, and we are grateful to all the devotees who are attending, who are enthusiastically, steadily continuing to participate in the Bhakti Vaibhav course. We are very grateful to all of you. And so we are trying to serve all the Vaishnavas here by trying to discuss on this 5th unit of the Bhakti Vaibhav course. That is the last unit of the first canto. So is everyone able to hear clearly? And see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, we are
Yes,
able to
Prabhuji.
hear
Okay, fine.
and see the screen also.
Okay, the screen, I don't know how to make it full size. Can somebody give some suggestion?
Can you press F5, Prabhuji, on your laptop?
Uh,
Can you try?
uh,
Oh, I think
no. I don't know what's happening. No.
on the left bottom there will be some menu to make it full screen.
No, that's what, there's nothing seen here. That's the point. Normally it would be there, but here I don't see anything. But in any case, is it visible?
Yes, we can see the Prabhupada.
Okay.
Prabhuji, we are able to see it with like full screen only kind of. जब text है तो problem है.
Is it clear?
No, Prabhuji.
Huh?
Yes.
Good enough?
जो मोबाइल में देख रहे हैं उनको नहीं दिखेगा. Prabhuji, we are able to see here. Others.
Okay.
Yeah, we are also able to see. Yeah.
Okay, fine then. That's fine. So approximately 5 lessons for the unit. And so we have 8 days. Let's see how it goes. So let's begin. With chapter 14, the disappearance of Lord Krishna. So the first 21 verses here are especially discussing the inauspicious omens seen by Yudhishthira Maharaj. Also, there's description of the apparent departure of Krishna in verse number 8. And 22 to 44 especially discusses how Arjuna returns from Dwarka, and then Yudhishthira asks him a series of various questions. And then finally, Yudhishthira Maharaj comes to the conclusion that Lord Krishna has disappeared. Okay, so let's begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Jayamudiraye.
Okay. Text 1. Sutta uvacha samprishthite dvarkayam jishnau bandhu didikshaya gyatum cha punya shlokasya krishnasya cha vicheshtitam. Sri Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna went to Dwarka to see Lord Sri Krishna and other friends, and also to learn from the Lord of his next activities. Okay, so Arjuna had gone samprasthite, so he had left, he had gone to Dwarakayam, to city of Dwarka, for the purpose of Didrikshaya Bandhu, for meeting his relatives and friends, and also his dear friend is Lord Krishna, so he went to see him and to learn from the Lord about his vicheshtitam, his next activities, his future plans. So that's the reason why Arjuna went to Dwarka. Text 2. A few months passed and Arjuna did not return. Maharaj Yudhishthir then began to observe some inauspicious omens which were fearful in themselves. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, I'll read this whole purport. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is ad infinitum, more powerful than the most powerful sun of our experience. Millions and billions of suns are created by him and annihilated by him within his one breathing period. In the material world, the sun is considered to be the source of all productivity and material energy, and only due to the sun can we have the necessities of life. Therefore, during the personal presence of the Lord on the earth, all paraphernalia for our peace and prosperity, especially religion and knowledge, were in full display because of the Lord's presence, just as there is a full flood of lights in the presence of the glowing sun. Maharaj Yudhishthir observed some discrepancies in his kingdom, and therefore he became very anxious about Arjuna, who was long absent, and there was also no news about Dwaraka's well-being. He suspected the disappearance of Lord Krishna, otherwise there would have been no possibility of fearful omens. So here, Prabhupada is mentioning the point that during the personal presence of the Lord, all paraphernalia for peace and prosperity, especially religion and knowledge, were in full display. And then he concludes the purport by saying that he suspected the disappearance of Lord Krishna. Otherwise, there would have been no possibility of fearful omens. So an important point that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, that when there is the presence of Krishna, who's like the sun, Krishna Surya Sammaya Andhakar Jaha Krishna Tahanahi Mayara Adhikar. So when the full sun like Krishna is present, then there is no question of any inauspiciousness, any bad omens, nothing of the sort. But all this is present only when Krishna is absent from our lives. So we see that when one is fully Krishna conscious, then both material prosperity, spiritual prosperity, everything follows. in the when we were discussing Narad Muni's pastime earlier on in the first canto, there Srila Prabhupada writes that material prosperity follows spiritual prosperity. So when there is spiritual prosperity that is in connection with Krishna, when one is Krishna conscious, then there is spiritual prosperity. And when there is spiritual prosperity, then material prosperity automatically follows. Because yoga kshemam vahamyaham. So everything what devotees require, Krishna is ready to provide. On the other hand, if one simply tries to get material things without the connection to Krishna, then material things, they may come for some time, but then they will disappear. Everything material is temporary. But when there is Krishna, then there can be real spiritual prosperity, material prosperity, as we can see in the life of Srila Prabhupada. As Srila Prabhupada in so many of his lectures, he says that we are simply performing devotional service, chanting Hare Krishna, and then Krishna is providing everything. We have so many vehicles, we have so much expenditure every day, lakhs of rupees, but still Krishna is providing. So when the spiritual prosperity is there, then the material prosperity automatically follows. So therefore, when Yudhishthira Maharaj's reign was there, that has already been discussed, I suppose, how there was so much of material prosperity. And so that's what Prabhupada is mentioning over here. And so now, because there are some ill omens that are visible, he is suspecting the disappearance of Krishna. So now follows a list of various ill omens that Yudhishthira Maharaj is observing. Text 3. He saw that the direction of eternal time had changed, and this was very fearful. There were disruptions in the seasonal regularities. The people in general had become very greedy, angry, and deceitful, and he saw that they were adopting foul means of livelihood. So all these symptoms were visible. Again, Prabhupada makes the point in the first line of his purport: when civilization is disconnected from the loving relation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, symptoms like changes of seasonal regulations, foul means of livelihood, greed, anger, and fraudulence become rampant. So the basic cause for all these inauspicious, unpleasant events in society is because of the disconnection from the loving relation with the Supreme Lord. So why? Because when the loving relation with the Supreme Lord when that connection is not there, then obviously there'll be so many sinful activities taking place, and then so many results or consequences of the sinful activities are exhibited in terms of all these various changes. And so therefore, when one does not follow the Shastra, when one does not follow the Shastric injunctions, then there cannot be any peace and prosperity. Ya Shastra vidim utsrujya vartate kamakarita nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. So when one gives up following the injunctions of the Shastras, then, so why one gives up following the injunctions of the Shastras? Kamakaritaha. As Srila Prabhupada in the purport to that verse, he explains what is the meaning of Kamakarita. So Prabhupada says that Kamakarita means one knows the injunctions of the scriptures, but still one does not follow. One knows this has to be done, but still one does not do it. One knows this should not be done, but still one does it. So this is called acting whimsically, Prabhupada writes there. So the main thing is that when one does not follow the injunctions of the Shastras, one becomes disconnected from the Supreme Lord because of one's sense gratificatory propensities, because one wants to act the way one likes to act, or what the mind dictates, rather than follow the injunctions of the Lord and the Shastra, then the results will be Vartate kamakarta. Ya shastravidamasurya vartate kam. Na sukham, na param gatim. So there's no happiness. One does not achieve the supreme destination. So then there are only all these various problems that come. So Srila Prabhupada in his lectures, he says that in modern day society, so many sinful activities, so many cows are being killed. How can there be peace and prosperity? In the Bhagavad Gita purports, Annat Bhavanti Bhutani, in those purports, Prabhupada writes that in this world, people are taking the property of Krishna using for their sense gratification. They're all thieves. And on top of that, they're also sinful. So in a society where everyone is a thief and sinful, how can one experience peace and prosperity? It is not possible. And so therefore, what is very important is that one very carefully understand the injunctions of the scriptures and follow and maintain that connection to the Supreme Lord. When that connection is established, then there is all prosperity. Otherwise, all the various impurities, all the various anarthas become manifest both internally and externally. So internal anarthas are all these greed, anger, fraudulence. So all these are internal, and then the external manifestation of that is in the form of all these seasonal irregularities and so many other ill omens that we will see. As Prabhupada further down in the purport, he says, a godless man is invariably greedy, angry, and fraudulent. So it's only a person who doesn't understand the injunctions of the scriptures because of ignorance, only he will act in such ways. Such a man can earn his livelihood by any means, black or white. So these days people hardly care, black, white, or anything. And during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthir, all the above symptoms were conspicuous by their absence. But Maharaj Yudhishthir was astonished to experience even a slight change in the godly atmosphere of his kingdom, and at once he suspected the disappearance of the Lord. So towards the end, he says, ignorance is the cause for all these anomalies in human society, and to remove this ignorance, especially in this age of degradation, the powerful sun is there to distribute light in the shape of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, all these various anomalies, all these various problems are only because of ignorance and not understanding the desires of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, very important for us to read the Shastras and understand the Shastras and follow them so that we can establish the connection to the Supreme Lord, and then we can be saved from all these anarthas within and from all the various consequences. So even in the modern days, whether you talk about this corona problem or any of these problems, the main cause is because of the disconnection from the loving relationship to the Supreme Lord. And the root cause of that is ignorance. And so therefore that ignorance has to be removed by spreading the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the next verse, he continues talking about more ill omens. All ordinary transactions and dealings became polluted with cheating, even between friends. And in familial affairs, there was always misunderstanding between fathers, mothers, and sons, between well-wishers and between brothers. Even between husband and wife, there was always strain and quarrel. Jimma prayam, that is cheating. Vyavaharitam, in ordinary vyavahar, ordinary transactions. Shatya, duplicity. So we find that all these are the symptoms of the disconnection from the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada is writing about Shatya, that is cheating. Propensity to cheat others is the most prominent. And this cheating practice is there in the conditioned souls because the conditioned souls are primarily in the material world, imbued with an unnatural desire to lord it over the material worlds. A living being in his pure state is not conditioned by the laws because in his pure state he is conscious that the living being is eternally subservient to the Supreme Being. And thus it is always good for him to remain subservient instead of falsely trying to lord it over the property of the Supreme Lord. So the shatyam, the cheating propensity is because one is trying to take what is not one's own, take somebody else's property by cheating. So one doesn't understand the first mantra of the Ishopanishad. What is the first mantra of the Ishopanishad?
Ishavasam.
Tell the whole verse.
Ishavasamidam sarvam yat kinchi jagatam jagat tena taktena gunjita magrit kasa siddhanam.
Okay, you can tell the translation also.
Yeah, everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, and everyone has been assigned their quota. And this is just my paraphrasing. Everyone is designed to take their own quota and do not encroach on others' quota.
So, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, sarvam, everything, Jagatyam Jagat, the whole world belongs to Krishna. And so therefore, one has to accept only that which has been given to one as one's quota and not encroach upon others' quota, others' property. But then we find because of greeds, one is not satisfied with what one has. Then one is always trying to encroach on others' property by trying to cheat, by trying to somehow attack other people, get more, because greed means a person is never satisfied. He wants more and more and more. So these are all demoniac qualities. And so therefore, we find in the pastime between Vamandev and Bali Maharaj, we read how when Lord Vamandev, he asked for 3 steps of land, and Bali Maharaj, he feels insulted. He says, what is this? You're coming to an emperor and asking for only 3 steps, and that too your small steps. I can give you anything. I can give you planets, I can give you wealth, I can give you whatever you like. But then Lord Vamandev says, no, I'm just a brahmachari, brahmana, so I'm satisfied. And then Lord Vamandev mentions that for a person who's not satisfied, for a person whose senses are not controlled, even if he's given the 3 worlds, he's never going to be satisfied. So that is the nature of greed. One is never satisfied. And so therefore, an important quality for a devotee is to remain satisfied with whatever comes of its own accord and not get into the zone of unnecessary prayas, trying to achieve more and more. So that's one of the impediments. And one has the greedy propensity to get more and more, then we find that one gets into the zone of trying to acquire that which is not one's quota, and that becomes the root cause of sin. Towards the end of that purport to Mantra 1, Srila Prabhupada writes that the root cause of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of God, neglecting his proprietorship. So when one does not understand that everything is the property of the Lord, then one tries to encroach on other people's properties and tries to take it for one's own. So it is big, and that is basically the cause of sin. That is basically the cause of all this cheating, because one thinks that one can encroach upon others' property. So therefore, it's very important that as devotees, one remain satisfied with what one has. Then one will not resort to all these cheating propensities. So towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada writes that the world of hypocrisy can be checked only by counteraction through devotional service to the Lord and nothing else. So the only way to get rid of all these propensities is to practice devotional service. So you find that here, one of the ill omens that is being mentioned here is how all relationships become strained. Sauradam, between friends, Pitri, Matri, Surid, Bhratra, Dampatinam, Kalkanam. So all these relationships are strained. There is quarrel. So we find that it is very difficult to have good relations without Krishna in the center. So Srila Prabhupada mentions that how when one understands that there is a common father, then one can see the connection of everyone with that common father, then there can be good relations. So Prabhupada gives the example that just like when a wife gets married, lady gets married to the husband, and then she goes to the husband's place, the in-laws place, then she develops relation with so many other people who are connected to the husband. Previously she had no relation. But then because of the connection to the husband, then so many new relations develop. So when one sees that commonality, then there can be good relation. So similarly, only when there is Krishna in the center, then there can actually be good relations. So therefore, good relationships can only be built on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, without that common factor of Krishna consciousness, then all relationships tend to be exploitative. And each one is simply trying to exploit the other person and get something. And therefore, we find in the material world, all relationships are strained. And the same principle will be there even within the society of devotees. If the Krishna conscious element is not there, where every devotee is simply trying to help the other devotees to come closer to Krishna. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada speaks about these points in his purports. There's a nice purport in the 7th canto. You can refer to that, 7th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 12. Where Srila Prabhupada is explaining that what is the Vaikuntha atmosphere, what is Vaikuntha competition. So Srila Prabhupada explains that the Vaikuntha atmosphere means that every devotee appreciates the service of every other devotee. There is no envy, there is no material competition and rivalry amongst servants. Ultimately, he writes there that ultimately everyone has only one designation. Everyone has only one upadhi, that is das. So therefore, if everyone is ultimately a servant, everyone is trying to serve everyone else. So then on that platform, there cannot be any rivalry, material competition. There can be spiritual competition where each one is trying to simply encourage the others to go ahead in Krishna consciousness. But then there won't be that material competition of trying to pull other people down. So therefore, what is important is that if there need to be real cooperation, real good relationships amongst devotees, then what is very important is to have Krishna in the center, where then there will not be any envy, rivalry, material competition. So then there can be true cooperation, true friendship, and good relationships. Otherwise, we find, especially in Kali Yuga, where so much of quarrel and hypocrisy, very difficult, very challenging to have good relations. But then when the exploitative mentality is absent, then there can be really good relations. Right, so text 5. In course of time, it came to pass that people in general became accustomed to greed, anger, pride, etc. Maharaj Yudhishthira, observing all these omens, spoke to his younger brother. So this became the norm, all these bad activities. Text 6. Maharaj Yudhishthira said to his younger brother Bhimsen, I sent Arjuna to Dwarka to meet his friends and to learn from the personality of Godhead Krishna of his program of work. Since he departed, 7 months have passed, yet he has not returned. I do not know factually how things are going there. Text 8. Is he going to quit his earthly pastimes as Devarshi Narada indicated? Has the time already arrived? Okay, so this is Maharaj Yudhishthira's doubts that is Lord Krishna going to depart? So Srila Prabhupada here in the purport is quoting these verses from the 4th canto, the 4th chapter of the Gita and the 3rd chapter. Okay. So further down the purport, Prabhupada writes, when the Lord, however, appears in his person as Lord Sri Krishna, his other plenary portions also join in him by his inconceivable potency called Yogamaya. And thus, the Lord Krishna of Vrindavan is different from Lord Krishna of Mathura or Lord Krishna of Dwarka. The Virat Roop of Lord Krishna is also different from him by his inconceivable potency. The Virat Roop exhibited on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is the material conception of his form. Therefore, it should be understood that when Lord Krishna was apparently killed by the bow and arrow of the hunter, the Lord left his so-called material body in the material worlds. The Lord is Kaivalya, and for him there is no difference between matter and spirit, because everything is created from him. Therefore, his quitting one sort of body or accepting another body does not mean that he is like the ordinary living being. All such activities are simultaneously one and different by his inconceivable potency. When Maharaj Yudhishthira was lamenting the possibility of his disappearance, it was just in pursuance of a custom of lamenting the disappearance of a great friend. But factually, the Lord never quits his transcendental body, as is misconceived by less intelligent persons. Such less intelligent persons have been condemned by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, and they are known as the Modas. That the Lord left his body means that he left again his plenary portions in the respective dhams, transcendental abodes, as he left his Virat Roop in the material worlds. Okay, so Prabhupada is explaining something about the disappearance of the Lord. So there's lecture of Srila Prabhupada. Okay, can somebody read this from the screen? This is Prabhupada's lecture.
The disappearance of Lord Krishna. How Krishna can be killed? It is for the demons to demonstrate like that, who think Krishna as ordinary human being. So for them, it is a jugglery. Here your Krishna is killed. Yes, they will say like that. So Tanaham Dishita Kruran Kshipami Ajrasham Asura Yonishu. The demons, they want to forget Krishna. They do not like to understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Continue, please.
Yeah, Krishna plays something like that so that they will be more convinced that Krishna is not God. Krishna is ordinary human being. Tanaham Dishita Kruran. They will remain in darkness forever. Krishna gives chance to everyone. If you want to forget Krishna, Krishna will give you such intelligence. You will talks so intelligently that Krishna is not God.
Hmm.
Ye yathamam prapadyante. And if you want to know Krishna, then he will give you such intelligence. You will know that here is Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. So, as Prabhupada is explaining, as we know, so Krishna is a transcendental body and he doesn't die like any other ordinary person. But then it appears as if he has been killed like an ordinary human being by a hunter. And why Krishna orchestrates this whole Leela, so that those who don't want to accept Krishna as God, then they get some good reason to say that Krishna is not God.
Going to take a long time. तुला काय सामान अजून?
I think so. Everyone should be muted. So, so Prabhupada is explaining here, Ye yathamam prapadyante. Srila Prabhupada in another lecture, he says that Krishna, who is situated as the Paramatma within the hearts, he gives intelligence to the atheists to write volumes of books denying the existence of God. So if one wants to deny the existence of God, then Krishna only will give intelligence to write volumes of books. So ultimately, everything depends on the desire of the jiva. Based upon the desire, then Krishna reciprocates accordingly. So as Prabhupada says here, Krishna plays something like that so that they will be more convinced that Krishna is not God. So why Krishna wants to convince them? Because that's what they desire. And if you want to know Krishna, then he will give you such intelligence. Tesham satayuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam. So if one wants to know Krishna, if one wants to understand Krishna, then Krishna will give intelligence accordingly. So much is therefore based upon desire. So what is the desire? So much is based upon that. So therefore, it is very important that one has the right quality of desires. Srila Prabhupada explains in Bhagavad Gita purports that how desire cannot be stopped. Only something which is insentient will not have desires. Only a stone will not have desires. But someone who is sentient will obviously have desires. But what needs to be changed is the quality of desires. So when one has the right quality of desires, then Krishna reciprocates accordingly. So if one wants to make sincere progress in devotional service, then Krishna will give that type of intelligence. Even within devotional service, if one wants to fulfill material desires, then Krishna will also give that type of desire, that type of intelligence to fulfill material desires along with devotional service. So then one does not get Krishna, one doesn't get pure devotional service. So therefore, one has to be very careful about what is the quality of desires. So as far as the Lord is concerned, the Lord has the transcendental body, and so Prabhupada explains that when the Swayam Bhagavan appears in this world, then all the various incarnations, plenary portions, all of them join the Supreme Lord. And then when the Lord disappears, then all the various other plenary portions and everyone else go back to their respective abodes. And what remains in the material world is the Virat Roop. Of course, we know that the Virat Roop is basically the universe itself. And that is a whole discussion in the second canto, but we already definitely know about the Virat Roop from the Bhagavad Gita and how basically the Virat Roop is a manifestation of the Lord in the universe, or how the universe is represented in the form of the Lord. And so that is what basically remains. But otherwise, so Prabhupada writes here, the Virat Roop exhibit in the battlefield of Kurukshetra is the material conception of his form. So it's a material conception because it's the representation of the universe. Of course, Prabhupada does explain that the Virat Roop, so it depends from which perspective one sees it, just like he gives the example of the deity. So the deity from one perspective is Krishna himself, so the deity is spiritual, but at the same time it's made of material elements, so it's material. But then, of course, the material elements have been spiritualized by the presence of Krishna. So similarly, the Virat Rupa is also like that. So Virat Rupa is a representation of the universe, which is material. But then when Krishna actually displays it, then it is spiritual because it is Krishna's form. So both the aspects are there. Right. So therefore, of course, Maharaj Yudhishthir, he knew all this, but then still he's lamenting because of not having that association. So obviously he knows that it's not like the death of any ordinary human being, but then he's missing or he's feeling the viraha, the separation from Krishna, and that is the cause for his lamentation. Text 9.
Prabhuji, have you stopped sharing your screen for some reason?
Oh, really? It has stopped?
Yeah, because I think somebody from ISKCON Pune, they might have been co-host. So I just wanted to bring this up.
Okay, let's do it again. Has it come now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Okay. So text 9. Okay, let's recite this. Yasman sampado rajam dara prana kulam praja asan sapatna vijayo lokascha yad anugrahat. From him only all our kingly opulence, good wives, lives, progeny, control over our subjects, victory over our enemies, and future accommodations in higher planets have become possible. All this is due to his causeless mercy upon us. Somebody can read the purport, please. Besides Narasimha Avatar.
Yeah, okay.
पढ़ो कोई तो जल्दी.
Material prosperity consists of a good wife, good home, sufficient land, good children, aristocratic family relations, victory over competitors, and by pious work, attainment of accommodations in the higher celestial planets for better facilities of material amenities. These facilities are earned not only by one's hard manual labor or by unfair means, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Prosperity earned by one's personal endeavor also depends on the mercy of the Lord. Personal labor must be there in addition to the Lord's benedictions. But without the Lord's benedictions, no one is successful simply by personal labor. The modernized man of Kali Yuga believes in personal endeavor and denies the benediction of the Supreme Lord. Even a great sannyasi of India delivered speeches in Chicago protesting the benedictions of the Supreme Lord. But as far as the Vedic Shastras are concerned, as we find in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, the ultimate sanction for all success rests in the hands of the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Yudhishthir admits this truth in his personal success, and it behooves one who follows in the footsteps of a great king and devotee of the Lord to make life a full success. If one could achieve success without the sanction of the Lord, then no medical practitioner would fail to cure a patient. Despite the most advanced treatment of a suffering patient by the most up-to-date medical practitioner, there is death. And even in the most hopeless case, without medical treatment, a patient is cured astonishingly. Therefore, the conclusion is that God's sanctions is the immediate cause for all happenings, good or bad. Any successful man should feel grateful to the Lord for all he has achieved.
Yes. So here, Yudhishthira Maharaj is remembering the causeless mercy of the Lord's upon him and the entire kingdom. So he says, Yasmat na sampada. So all the sampada, Rajyam, Dara, Prana, Kulam, Praja. So all the opulence, whatever He has. He has. So he says all of this is because of him. Yasmat. Yasmat, from whom? Everything. Everything is because of him. His anugrahat. Lokascha yat anugrahat. It is only because of his mercy that all this opulence was present upon us. And even opulence that is going to come in the future accommodations in higher planets. So what was there in the past, what will be there in the future, everything is because of anugrahat, is because of the mercy of the Lord. So here Prabhupada is addressing a common notion that one simply has to work hard and then one will get whatever one is destined. So something like Karma Mimamsa philosophy, which Krishna also was speaking to Nanda Maharaj before the Govardhan Leela. So how does one refute this? Can somebody say a few points to refute this philosophy? Simply work hard, results will come. So where is God in the picture? Boliye. Few points.
Can we quote Bhagavad Gita? Or is it for logical reasons, or shall we quote Bhagavad Gita also?
We quote Shastra for whatever we speak.
Okay, so in Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Panchetani Mahabhahu Karanani Nibudame Sankhya Bhakti Pruktani Siddhe Sarva Sarvama. There's Adhishthanam Tatha Karta Karanam Chividam. Daiva Chaivatra Panchamam, there he says.
Yes. Okay, good point. Yes. So what is a Daiva?
So that's the mercy of the Lord and the sanction of the Lord, we can say.
Yes. So 5 factors of action, Krishna speaking on 18th chapter. So amongst all, Daivam ultimately. Okay, some other points, some examples, analogies.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We see that in the college and so many students work hard, but not everyone becomes top.
Yes. Okay. Okay, that's also a good point. Yes. Somebody else wants to add?
I think Prabhupada also mentioned somewhere here that so many patients are there in the hospitals, but
Yes.
Although doctors are trying hard, not everybody can be saved, and sometimes they give up, and the patient is also saved somehow.
Right. So many people got infected from coronavirus. Some died. Some survived. Though the treatment is apparently the same. Okay. Something else.
Hare Krishna. Farmer is working very hard, but if the rains don't come, like supply of water, then still the crops may not grow.
Okay, fine. So one is dependent on the rains. Okay. What else? और कोई बोलने वाला है?
We can take someone from other studies.
Prabhupada usually spoke about how so many people are working hard to become rich. But not everyone becomes rich. Everyone is working hard to earn money, but only some become rich. So that means there is some superior power who is controlling. Srila Prabhupada also gave examples that how we find that there are people who are destined to remain poor. So he gives the example that his own experience, how 50 years back, he saw on the footpath of Mumbai, there are so many people lying on the streets. And after so many years also, there are people on the streets, on the footpath. Sometimes government also gives them some good houses to stay. But what do? They give them on rent or sell them, and they continue to stay on the footpath. Why? They're destined. Srila Prabhupada also gives another example of how that time there were so many hippies in America. And some of them actually came from very rich families. But still, they were, even though they came from rich families, but they were on the street. Why? Destiny. So therefore, it's not that one is in full control of situations. One has to accept that there is a higher power in control. And everything does not depend simply on personal endeavor. So therefore, Prabhupada writes here, personal labor must be there in addition to the Lord's benediction. But without the Lord's benediction, no one is successful simply by personal labor. In the Ishopanishad purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example that how one could have personal qualification, but unless there is superior sanction, one cannot be elevated. He gives the example that just like somebody may have studied in the law college and got his LLB and all that, but the higher authority has to appoint him as a high court judge. He may have the qualification, but the higher authority has to appoint him. Then only he'll get the post of high court judge. So similarly, one may work hard and become qualified, but still, unless the superior sanction is there, one cannot get the result. So therefore, personal endeavor, personal labor is not sufficient. The mercy of the Lord is definitely required. And so therefore, the last sentence, Prabhupada says, any successful man should feel grateful to the Lord for all he has achieved. Anugrahat. So one has to accept that without the mercy of the Lord, nothing is going to happen. Of course, even to put the personal endeavor, also the mercy is required. So can somebody quote a few verses from Bhagavad Gita to establish this point? Even for personal endeavor, the mercy of the Lord is required. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita?
Can we say Upadrishta cha Bharta Bhukta?
Okay, that's also a good quote. The Anumanta is required. Sanction of the Lord is required. Some other verses? Especially 7th chapter. So Krishna is saying, Balam Balavatam Chaham Tejas Tejas Vinamaham Buddhi Buddhimatam Asmi. So Krishna is saying that ultimately to have intelligence, I am that intelligence, I am that power, I am the ability in man. So ultimately it is only Krishna who is giving all that. So as Prabhupada says that if Krishna does not give ability, I can't speak a single word. Vocal cords will be paralyzed. Not one word will come out. So one is so dependent. One is so dependent on higher powers, on the Lord. Without the Lord's mercy, one cannot get anything. One cannot do anything. So that is how, when one understands this, one automatically becomes grateful to the Lord for all what one has. And when one has the gratitude that the Lord is supplying everything, even though I don't deserve, but still God is supplying, then automatically one becomes humble. That it is not by my endeavor, by my great ability, but it is only because there has been a superior sanction that I'm able to do something. So that automatically brings about gratitude and humility. So, and that humility becomes very essential for attracting the mercy of the Lord, for chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, so that's an important point. Yudhishthira Maharaj, such a great king, but then he's remembering that how it is only because of the mercy of the Lord all this was possible. So when one fails to understand, recognize that mercy of the Lord in one's life, then that becomes the cause of pride. I'm a great person. I did this, I did that. And then when one becomes proud, then everything is finished. Punar Mushtika Bhava. If one becomes proud, I've done so many things, then again, Krishna may take away the ability, and once again, one becomes incapacitated, helpless. So one has to recognize this. Let's learn from the acharyas. Okay, we'll take questions at the end of this section. Is it okay? Narasimha Prabhu, some devotees are raising hands. Do they want to ask questions?
Yeah. So we are okay, Prabhuji, to have questions at the end. Generally, what we used to do in 2-hour session, after 45-50 minutes, we take 10 minutes question, again resume, and then towards the end, again 10-15 minutes question. But it is
I usually prefer finishing one section and then taking questions. Otherwise, there's interruption in the flow.
Okay, Prabhuji.
All right, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll proceed ahead. Text 10. So this goes to 22 verses. Just see, O man with a tiger's strength, how many miseries due to celestial influences, earthly reactions, and bodily pains, all very dangerous in themselves, are foreboding danger in the near future by deluding our intelligence. So many miseries are becoming visible. Prabhupada again writes a beautiful statement at the beginning of his purport. Material advancement of civilization means advancement of the reactions of the threefold miseries due to celestial influence, earthly reactions, and bodily or mental pains. So that is material advancement of civilization. More miseries, and that's what we are actually seeing now, how the miseries are increasing. And man-made material science cannot do anything to counteract these old miseries. They're all punishments from the superior energy of Maya under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, our constant touch with the Lord by devotional service can give us relief without our being disturbed in the discharge of our human duties. Okay, so that's what happens when one may claim that there has been a lot of advancement. Prabhupada's constant argument was, okay, you claim to be very advanced, but have you been able to stop Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi? That was the constant question which the Prabhupada asked. No, that's not possible. Okay, 11. The left side of my body, my thighs, arms, and eyes are all quivering again and again. I'm having heart palpitations due to fear. All this indicates undesirable happenings. So Prabhupada is explaining that how it's like a forest fire, samsara davana. So nobody wants them, but then there are so many calamities. Similar undesirable happenings in life cannot be checked by any number of plans. Such miseries can be removed only by the mercy of the Lord, who sends his bona fide representatives to enlighten human beings and thus save them from all calamities. So, by our man-made plans, we cannot check all these various miseries. So, only samsara dava nallida loka pranaya karunya ghanagano. So only when the karunya, the mercy, clouds, showers, then only it is possible to get free from these miseries. Okay, so now it's basically a series of translations. Somebody could read, just read, there are no purports now. So somebody can just read these translations, maybe one devotee can read 2 translations and proceed.
Okay, text number 12. Just see, O Bhima, how the she-jackal cries at the rising sun and vomits fire, and how the dog barks at me fearlessly. Text 13. O Bhimsena, tiger amongst men, now useful animals like cows are passing me on my left side, and lower animals like the asses are circumambulating me. My horses appear to weep upon seeing me.
Okay, somebody else? Maybe amongst brahmacharis or whoever. क्या हो रहा है? We are muted. Narasimha Prabhu. Narasimha Prabhu, can you unmute maybe some devotees?
Yes, I'm just unmuting them now.
Yeah, go.
Hare Krishna.
Hmm.
Text number 14. Just see, this pigeon is like the messenger of death. The silks of the owls and their rival cows make my
Crows, not cows.
make my heart tremble. It appears that they want to make a void of the whole universe. Text number 15. Just see how the smoke encircles the sky. It appears that the earth and mountains are throbbing. Just hear the cloudless thunder and see the bolts from the blue. Text number 16.
The wind blows violently, blasting dust everywhere and creating darkness. Clouds are raining everywhere with bloody disasters. Text 17. The rays of the sun are declining, and the stars appear to be fighting amongst themselves. Confused living entities appear to be ablaze and weeping. Rivers, tributaries, ponds, reservoirs, and a mine are all perturbed. Butter no longer ignites fire. What is this extraordinary time? What is going to happen?
Text 19. The calves do not suck the teats of the cows, nor do the cows give milk. They are standing, crying, tears in their eyes, and the bulls take no pleasure in the pasturing grounds. Text 20. The deities seem to be crying in the temples, lamenting and perspiring. They seem about to leave. All these cities, villages, towns, gardens, mines, and hermitages are now devoid of beauty and bereft of all happiness. I do not know what sort of the canopies are now awaiting us.
One more.
I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. These signs indicate that this will no longer be.
Okay, fine. So Yudhishthira Maharaj is seeing all these omens, and so he is coming to a conclusion that most probably all this is because the earth is going to be bereft of the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, Ananya Purusha Shri Bhir Hina Bhur Hata Sobhaka. So, the earth, Bhu, is going to be bereft of Nunam Bhagavata Padai. Footprints of the Lord. Okay, so this is the first section of how Yudhishthira Maharaj is observing all these inauspicious omens and coming to this conclusion. Okay, so now we could take any questions, a few questions if somebody has. No questions? Should we proceed?
Chat पे था question. Chat पे question था.
Yes, no.
Prabhuji, there is question.
Okay, please ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. As you are explaining, that everything is actually our endeavor, and when it is sanctioned by the mercy of the Lord, then we are able to perform. Now the question is that whenever something wrong happens in our life, some death happens in the family of the family members, then they are in a very miserable state. And then how do we actually explain to them that we understand that this also has been sanctioned by the Lord, but then they are not, they feel that how the Lord is has sanctioned. That means they are at that point of they are not in a state to accept this. So how to actually practice? We understand theoretically, but then how do we handle this situation practically for someone else, or when we want to explain to somebody else?
Okay, so how do we explain this to somebody else? So especially when there's some miserable condition.
Or even we can see that the current situation, Corona, and practically some family members may die which they were not expecting. So in one sense they are miserable, and they may feel that, oh, Lord is not merciful.
Okay, how do we explain them, console them? Okay, any suggestions from the learned assembly? Yes, any suggestions? Okay, Krishna Rup Mataji, you want to say? Haribol, somebody try and answer the question. Amongst the so many senior devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I would like to give a try for this. That,
please do, Anand Gopru.
Hare Krishna. With your blessings, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
At this miserable condition, whenever everybody is grief-stricken.
Little louder, please.
At this miserable situation when everybody is grief-stricken, like the philosophy doesn't work. Like people are not in a mood of accepting the philosophy. So let the situation get settled down. Whenever somebody's emotions are high, that time we should not speak the philosophy. And whenever it is settled down, that time, like the person is in a state of really accepting something. That time we can give him whatever the proportions to philosophy is. So
okay, that's definitely being sensitive to the situation. But then what does one, but I think the Prabhu's question is, so what should one do at that moment then?
One should be there with that person, and just don't say that it is a Lord's plan. It is really, whenever the Corona was at a peak, that time some of the devotees were having this the YouTube channel, and they were saying that it is a mercy of the Lord. It is a mercy. So it is not a situation. It will be so like the whole thing will be
seen by the like the other materialistic people in a different way. So that is like, it is not a preaching, it is anti-preaching happening. So better to wait for a situation where the person will be accepting the situation. Like now for the corona we can
Practical realizations.
sorry.
You're speaking from some practical realizations, I think. So you were involved in these situations, I think.
No, it is not like that.
Okay, fine.
It is very one.
Okay, no problem. So maybe one more devotee would like to comment something amongst the congregation.
Prabhuji, I would like to comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Prabhuji, in Gajendra Moksha, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was telling that who can stop the wind, and sometimes the wind is in the east direction and sometimes it is in the west direction, and who can stop these things because they are not in our control. So for the peaceful execution of our Krishna conscious duties, we need Krishna's grace. And why we need Krishna's grace? He's saying that this is we are physically unhealthy, and because we can't chant, read, so we actually plead to the Lord, or we request to the Lord that please give me good health so that I can chant nicely, because all these three types of miseries, they become a source of our anxiety, and they do not let us do our religious duties very peacefully. So I think praying to the Lord, and he says that this actually paves the way for us to do our religious duties very peacefully and make our way back home, back to Godhead.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we should pray for those departed souls, or whoever is going through miseries. That's your suggestion?
Yes, praying
Okay,
for them. Yes.
Okay, fine. So we don't speak any philosophy at that moment. We just pray for them.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good idea. Yes. Fine. So, so yes, obviously, as devotees are suggesting that in such situations of calamities, one definitely has to deal with the situations in a very sensitive way. And so, though we understand the fact that ultimately everything is happening by the sanction of the Lord, but then definitely one needs to understand the situation and then speak accordingly. So therefore, in such situations, chanting the holy names and offering prasadam, these things could be done. And then later on, when, as Ango Prabhu said, when situation settles down, then they're in a better position to listen to philosophy. Then we could explain that how everything is happening by the plan of the Lord. Okay, any other questions? Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. There is one more question on the chat. Shall I read it?
Go ahead.
This is from Gaurila Prabhuji. How come during Yudhishthira Maharaj's rule, people were adopting foul means of livelihood?
So yes, because at this point of time, the Lord had disappeared. So even though, yes, Yudhishthira Maharaj was there, but then temporarily, at least for when the Lord just disappeared. So, so at that time, then all these various symptoms were there. And then we also read that because the Lord disappeared, then Kali had actually tried to enter. I had read this somewhere, I'm not exactly able to remember, but then maybe Prabhupada's lecture or somewhere. So Kali had actually tried to enter, but then, and so therefore there was some influence of Kali. So as soon as the Lord disappeared, then Kali tried to make his appearance. And so then all these various symptoms are there for some time, but then there was Yudhishthira Maharaj, and then we know Parikshit Maharaj was there, and then so they drove away Kali, and then we know, we will read that what happens to Kali. But then that's the point. The point is because Krishna disappeared, so then Kali made some influence there for some time. But then once again, but because these great personalities were present, then Kali could not continue his influence. So that's my understanding, which I heard and read. We hope Gauli Prabhu is satisfied. I don't know if Gauli Prabhu can answer.
I think there is some issue with the mute and unmute. I think individual participants.
Okay, fine. Any other question or should we proceed?
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
One more question, something related to first question only. When we see that devotees practicing Krishna consciousness for a few years, like for example, a student chanting since 4 or 5 years and is staying in one of the centers, and he's getting year back after year back, maybe. Or so then, how should that particular devotee relate with the outside world? Or we can see another situation when householders they are facing some difficulty. For example, they are not getting their daughters married, or some other situations happening in their life, and then how in such a situation they should react to the outside world, because outside people, they are not able to relate on the level of Krishna consciousness. They are so that is affecting the consciousness of this person, the student who has failed, or and other people are saying that, oh, you are practicing Krishna consciousness, but see, this is what your performance is, you are failing year after year. Or the other person are saying that, oh, this is what you are practicing Krishna consciousness, and see, you have so many problems. Your daughter not getting married, this problem, that problem. So in such a situation, the person gets affected. So how he should then, because he understands that theoretically, he understands that, okay, this is all because of my karma, or but the other person, they understand that, okay, you are practicing Krishna consciousness, but see, this is what is happening in your life.
Okay, fine. So yes, so outside people, materialistic people generally tend to say that, oh, you're practicing devotional service, but you're also going through miseries, there is death, there is all this. So what's the difference, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's again hear some answers.
Hare Krishna. So in this case, just like same situation was faced by Sridhar Kolavich. So he was told by the outside people that what you are doing is bhakti. But he was not disturbed. So the solution is that one has to raise his own Krishna consciousness, either by his own, by taking shelter of the Shastras or through some senior devotees.
Okay, fine. So, okay, that's one aspect. But I think the Prabhu is also asking, how do we respond to the outside people, correct?
Yes.
So they will say, so we need not, like, it's not always there to that we have to react to them, but we can feel stable in our own consciousness, because outside people, they will keep on saying these things. So we have to tolerate, and we have to, and then if they are willing to listen with the, if they are receptive, so they can be told philosophy of whatever is they can be able to relate to. If they are not receptive, then we need to tolerate, and we need to be deep in our own practice and raise our own Krishna consciousness.
Okay, good points. Somebody wants to add something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Without practicing Krishna consciousness, so many people are miserable and failure. So in that regard, so we can see even though actually what is unsuccessful, but the practice is pure. So therefore, you have to encourage, like this, lacking from our side. Maybe in the name of practicing Krishna consciousness, the person may be what they call what exactly?
Say the last thing, or what did you say?
In the name of practicing Krishna consciousness, the person may be it may be fanaticism, or it may be
superficial.
Not sincere. I mean, he is not dutiful. Negligence, exactly.
Acha, negligence on the part of the devotee who's being affected.
Material duty.
Okay.
He may not be dutiful in materialistic activities.
Okay.
Like in the students, he may not study,
Hmm.
And in case of
So
Grihastha, yeah.
yes, so I think that both the aspects are there. So on one hand, yes, as you're saying, one should be dutiful. One should definitely perform one's duties properly and not be neglectful. So just like students have to study, they have to work hard, and then they can try, and then expect superior sanction. So that's definitely what definitely has to be there. But in spite of that, we even as devotees, definitely there are failures, there are calamities. So everything happens. So many things happen even in the life of devotees. Actually, Prabhupada, he gives the example that just like the waves of the ocean. Can anyone stop the waves of the ocean? No. The waves of the ocean are going to be there for everyone, whether it is devotees, non-devotees, waves are going to be there. So similarly, material world means there are going to be miseries, whether one is a devotee or not a devotee. It's not that when one becomes a devotee, there won't be any miseries. So miseries will be there. And so therefore, the materialists may say that, okay, you're also experiencing miseries, we are also experiencing miseries. What is the difference? Prabhupada's answer to that was yes, you're experiencing, we are experiencing, that is true. But for us, this is the last time, last life. We are not going to experience any future miseries. But for materialists, life after life, they will keep on experiencing misery. So that's the difference. And the other point is also, of course, when a devotee experiences misery, then he is not so much affected because he understands, he's able to tolerate because he understands the philosophy. So the person who's the devotee who's going through miserable situations, on one hand, he has to tolerate, he has to understand that yes, this is due to my past karma. And then on the other hand, as far as the other people are concerned, then he should be able to explain that yes, this is the difference. And the duty of the devotee is to explain whether they accept it or not is their problem. We can't convince the whole world. That is not possible. Prabhupada very often said, Manushanam Sahasreshu. We can't convince the whole world. But we can try. We can try, that's all. And if they don't accept, that is their problem. It's not that because they are not accepting, we get disturbed because of that. No. Is it okay?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, fine. So now we will go on to the next section. So the next section. Okay, so text 22. Okay, maybe somebody can continue to read because again, there are quite a few verses without any purports. So somebody can just continue to read.
Text 22. O Brahmanas, Sonak, while Maharaj Yudhishthir, observing the inauspicious signs on the earth at that time, was thus thinking to himself, Arjuna came back from the city of the Yadus, Dwarka.
23rd translation. When he bowed at his feet, the king saw that his dejection was unprecedented. His head was down, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, the king, remembering the indications of the sage Narada, questioned him in the midst of his friends. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, "My dear brother, please tell me whatever our friends and relatives, such as My dear brother, please tell me whether our friends and relatives, such as Madhu, Bhoj, Dasharha, Arha, Satvata, Andaka, and the members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness." Text 26. Is my respectable grandfather Surasena in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudev and his younger brothers all doing well? His 7 wives, headed by Devaki, are all sisters. Are they and their sons and daughters-in-law all happy?
Our Ugrasen, whose son was the mischievous Kamsa, and his younger brother still living? Are Ritika and his son Kritavarma happy? Are Akrura, Jayanta, Gada, Sarana, and Shatrujit all happy? How is Balram the personality of Godhead and the protector of devotees?
Okay, so here you find Kachidasti Sukam Ramo Bhagavan Satvatam Prabhu. So here, Lord Balaram is being addressed as Bhagavan and Satvatam Prabhu. So therefore, Prabhupada is speaking about Balaram and how he is, the difference between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. So he's explaining that in his purport. And he concludes the purport by saying, by his divine, therefore it is particularly mentioned here that Balaram is the protector of the devotees of the Lord, Satvatam Prabhu. By his divine grace only one can approach the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And thus Sri Balaram is the mercy incarnation of the Lord, manifested as the spiritual master, the savior of the pure devotees. So that's how Balaram is represented by the spiritual master. And so it's only by the mercy of the spiritual master, Lord Balaram, that one can approach the Supreme Lord, or in the past tense of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, then again the same principle, only by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, one can approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So can we hear some few examples to illustrate this Siddhanta? Only by the mercy of Guru, only by the mercy of Balaram or Nityananda Prabhu, one can approach Krishna. Few examples, Shastra examples.
In case of Raghunath Das Goswami, he was trying to approach Lord Chaitanya, but then first he had to get the mercy of Nityananda.
Yes, that's correct. Good. Some other examples?
Hare Krishna, the author of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, also got the mercy of Nityananda.
Yes, that's true. And of course, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he shows that how one needs the mercy of all the Vaishnavas. So he actually takes blessings of so many Vaishnavas before he begins his writing. Something more?
Jagai and Madai also got the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu.
Yes. Who else?
We can say about the Suta Goswami after Roma Harshana Suta. Balramji put him onto the seat and he could speak Bhagavatam.
Okay, you mean to say Balaram, he blessed Suta Goswami?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can see also Jiva Goswami. First he got the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, then he was Nityananda Prabhu. First means Nityananda Prabhu took him and showed all the Navadvip Dham. And then he means after receiving the mercy of Lord Nityananda, then he finally got further.
Okay. Okay, fine. So that's an important Siddhanta, and so therefore, yasya prasadat bhagat prasado yasya prasadan nagati kutopi, and so therefore our constant endeavor should be how we can please the spiritual masters, how we can please the acharya, and so far as within our society, ISKCON society, our endeavor should be always how we can please Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, Sansthapak Acharya, and therefore very important for us to read Srila Prabhupada's books and very carefully study the purports. So sometimes devotees think that Bhagavatam reading means focusing more on the verses and the Sanskrit and all that. That is all right. But as members of ISKCON, for us it is very important to scrutinizingly study Srila Prabhupada's purports, because Prabhupada gives very important instructions for devotees, and therefore to understand his mood and mission, it's very important for us to read these Bhaktivedanta purports which Srila Prabhupada has painstakingly given till the last moment of his life. Okay, so therefore we are trying to understand Srila Prabhupada's purports. it's only with the mercy of the Acharya that one can actually understand. So that's so the service to the Acharya is very important. Okay, please continue to read.
Text start translation. How is Pradyumna the great general of the Vishnu family? Is he happy? And is Aniruddha the plenary expansion of the personality quoted? Faring well? 31. Are all the chieftains sons of the Lord Krishna, such as Susena, Charudesna, Samba, the son of the Jamavati, and Rishabha, along with their sons, all doing well?
Okay.
32-33. Also, Srutadeva, Uddhava, and other sons, Nanda, Sananda, and other leaders of the liberated souls, who are constant companion of the Lord, are protected by the Lord Balram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternal bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare?
Okay, so basically Yudhishthira Maharaj is asking why, he's trying to find out why Arjuna is so dejected, and so therefore he's asking all these questions. So are these people well, are those people well? So here we find that it is being mentioned how all these are liberated souls, constant companions of the Lord. Satvata Rishabha Api. So even though they are liberated souls, the best of men, that's how they're being addressed. So Prabhupada speaks about liberated souls in the purports. And he says the Pandavas are also liberated souls who descended along with Lord Krishna to serve him in his transcendental pastimes on this earth. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being Tatastha Shakti or marginal potency of the Lord. That is the difference between the Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. So we find a similar reference in the Bhagavad Gita of the Lord remembering and the associate forgetting. Where is that in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yeah, when Arjuna is asking, how is that? I have to understand that you told this to sun god.
Yes. Because
Lord's body is transcendental, he will never forget where the jivas, they keep on changing the bodies.
Right. So Krishna explains that both of us were present when he gave the knowledge to the sun god Vivaswan, but Krishna remembers and Arjuna forgets. So that's the difference between the Vishnu Tattva and the Tatastha Shakti, the Jiva Tattva. So even though the Jiva Tattva may be on the liberated platform, but still the difference between the Lord and the Jiva is always going to be there. It's never going to be that the Jiva is going to become equal with the Lord in all respects. That difference will always be there. And so therefore, even though we say about the Guru, Sakshad Haritmena Samasta Shastri, that he is as good as Hari. So, but he's not Hari, he's not God. He's as good as God. Why is as good as God? Because he's repeating the message of God, but he can never become as good. So there, he can never become God. And so therefore the difference will always be there. Therefore even from the Guru or from exalted personalities, we cannot expect them to behave like God and remember everything and do extraordinary things and all that. So the limitations will always be there. So we should have that, we should have realistic expectations, even from greatly elevated souls. Not that we expect them to be perfect in all respects. And so sometimes we find amongst devotees there are unrealistic expectations from gurus and senior devotees. And then when the unrealistic expectations are not met, then they feel a little frustrated. So, but then what is important is that one has realistic expectations. Can't expect the jiva to be God or behave exactly like God. So sometimes, so we can expect that even great personalities sometimes can make some mistakes, can forget things and all that. So one should know the difference will always exist, even if one is on the liberated platform. And further down he says, and to the eternal servitors of the Lord is pleased to give all protection at all times. The liberated souls never therefore think themselves as free as the Lord or as powerful as the Lord, but they always seek the protection of the Lord in all circumstances, both in the material world and the spiritual worlds. This dependence of the liberated soul is constitutional, for the liberated souls are like sparks of a fire that are able to exhibit the glow of fire along with the fire and not independently. Independently, the glow of the spark is extinguished, although the quality of fire or the glowing is there. Thus, those who give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance come back again to this material world even after prolonged tapasya of the severest type. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. So this is the difference between the conditioned soul and liberated souls. So the liberated souls, they always remember the fact that they're always dependent on the Lord, and so therefore they're always seeking the mercy of the Lord in all circumstances, seeking the protection of the Lord in all circumstances. And then again, the principle of Yeya Tamam Prabhu, therefore the Lord favors them. So, but the conditioned souls, they tend to forget this fact that how they're dependent on the Lord. But the liberated souls always remember that. Okay, text 34. Okay, let's recite this verse. Bhagavan api govindo brahmanyo bhaktavatsalah kachit pure sudharmayam sukham aste suradvrataha. Is Lord Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives pleasure to the cows, the senses, and the brahmanas, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, enjoying the pious assembly at Dwarkapuri, surrounded by friends. So here, Yudhishthira Maharaj is specifically asking about Govinda, the Supreme Lord. And as Prabhupada is writing, the Lord is described as Bhagavan, Govinda, Brahmanya, and Bhaktavatsala. And so he's basically explaining all these various words, how the Lord is being addressed. So he's Bhagavan Swayam, because he has all the various opulences and all that. And then he's Govinda, he's the protector of the cows and Brahmanical culture. So that's an important point. And Prabhupada is writing that a society devoid of cow protection and Brahmanical culture is not under the direct protection of the Lord. Just as the prisoners in the jails are not under the protection of the king, but under the protection of a severe agent of the king. Without cow protection and cultivation of Brahmanical qualities in human society, at least for a section of the members of society, no human civilization can prosper at any length. Srila Prabhupada, both in lectures and purports, he speaks about how therefore we are trying to create, we are trying to make at least a section of the population to Brahmanas. In the 16th chapter, Bhagavad Gita purport, in one purport, Prabhupada writes, I think 1%, at least 1% of the population should be Brahmanas, then there'll be peace and prosperity. So the important point is that, yes, it's very important. So Prabhupada focused on trying to make Brahmanas, because at least if a certain section of the population become Brahmanas, then they can guide the rest of the society. Prabhupada's famous example that in the body, sometimes there could be someone without a hand or without a leg, but can we ever find someone who's walking around without a head? We never find that. So, but that's the situation of modern day society, that it's a headless society. And so therefore, Prabhupada's emphasis was on at least creating some Brahmanas who will be able to guide the others. And then of course, Brahmana means then you must have all the qualities, Shamo, Damo, Tapa, Shaucham and all that. So that's a Brahmana. A very important point you can note Prabhupada's writing further down. The stage of a devotee which attracts the transcendental affection of the Lord, does not develop unless one has developed the qualities of a Brahmana as above mentioned. The Lord is inclined to a Brahmana of quality and not of false prestige. Those who are less than a Brahmana by qualification cannot establish any relation with the Lord, just as fire cannot be kindled from the raw earth unless there is wood, although there's a relation between wood and earth. And so some very important statements Prabhupada is making over here as to the importance of developing Brahmanical qualities as devotees. So, and that's what Krishna also mentions towards the end of the 12th chapter. The last section of the 12th chapter, verses number 13 to 20, is a list of various qualities. So, and in another lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, he's talking about the simplicity of Brahmana, and then he says, a Brahmana is not meant to construct a big house. Brahmana is meant to construct character. So that's what attracts the Lord. The Lord is pleased by good qualities. The Lord is inclined to a Brahmana of quality and not of false prestige. Very important statement. So therefore, what is very important is that we try and cultivate these Brahmanical qualities. We try and cultivate our character. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Dharma sthapana hetu sadhura vyavahar. The principles of religion are established by the activities of the devotee, the sadhu. The vyavahar, dharma sthapana hetu sadhura vyavahar. The behavior of a sadhu establishes. So why? Because when people see the behavior, people see the qualities, that is what they are attracted by. So one could speak big philosophy, but if the character is not there, the qualities are not there, neither Krishna is going to be pleased, nor people are going to be attracted. So people want to see that somebody is walking his talk. When people don't see that, then it breaks faith. And so therefore, it's a great responsibility on the part of devotees that they try to develop these good qualities, Brahmanical qualities, develop the character, because that's what is the manifestation of the practice of philosophy. In the purport to the last verse of the 8th chapter of the Gita, Prabhupada writes again a very beautiful statement. He says, the study of the Vedas is not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. Beautiful statement. So we find that Srila Prabhupada, again, when Prabhupada was asked, how, by a newspaper reporter, how do we recognize the members of your society? He said, the perfect ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Srila Prabhupada was himself that example by which he attracted thousands and thousands of people, because people developed faith because they could see that here's a man who is acting, who is behaving as he is speaking. There's no difference. And that's what attracted thousands of people, because they saw a man of character. And so therefore, that's something which is very, very important, development of the Brahmanical qualities, and that's what pleases Krishna, and then that's what will please the devotees, and that's what will attract other people. Otherwise, the example is being given that this fire cannot be kindled from the raw earth. So similarly, without the Brahmanical qualities, then one cannot establish a relation with Krishna, because Krishna is not pleased. Okay, and then therefore it's called Brahmanya, and then finally Bhaktavatsala. Bhaktavatsala, inclined towards his devotees. Okay, so then 35, 36, let's see, do we have something here? Hmm. Okay, fine, that's nothing. Okay, so 35, 36. The original personality of God is the enjoyer, and Balaram, the primeval Lord Ananta, are staying in the ocean of the Yadu dynasty for the welfare, protection, and general progress of the entire universe. And the members of the Yadu family, the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of the Lord, are enjoying life like the residents of the spiritual sky. Okay, what we'll do is, since we are running short of time, we wanted to finish the chapter. So we will just read the rest of the translations for today, and there are a few philosophical points which we could discuss tomorrow at the beginning of the class and then proceed to the next chapter. Okay, so somebody can just read the remaining translations from 37. Would somebody like to read, please?
Okay, I'm reading, Prabhuji. Text 37. Simply by administering comforts at the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the most important of all services, the queens at Dwaraka, headed by Satyabhama, induced the Lord to conquer the demigods. Thus, the queens enjoy things which are prerogative wives of the controller of thunderbolts.
Go ahead.
Yeah. 38. The great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of the Lord Sri Krishna, always remain fearless in every respect, and therefore their feet trample over the Sudharma assembly house, which the best demigods deserved, but which was taken away from them. 39. My brother Arjuna, please tell me whether your health is all right. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. Is this due to others disrespecting and neglecting you because of your long stay at Dwarka? Text 40. Has someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you? Could you not give charity to one who asked, or could you not keep your promise to someone? 41. You are always the protector of the deserving living beings, such as brahmanas, children, cows, women, and the deceased. Could you not give them protection when they approached you for shelter? Text 42. Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character, or have you not properly treated a deserving woman? Or have you been defeated on the way by someone who is inferior or equal to you? 43. Have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them and taken your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake which is considered to be abominable? 44. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason for your becoming so dejected.
Okay, that's in the book and purpose of the first canto, 14th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Disappearance of Lord Krishna. Okay, fine. So, there are a few philosophical points in these verses which we will cover tomorrow at the beginning of the class, and also take a few questions, if any, and then we'll proceed on with the 15th chapter. Is it all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. There was one question I had left in the chat, which I could not detect earlier.
Maybe we can take it tomorrow because our time is up for today, isn't it?
Okay, Prabhuji, fine.
Okay, so is this style okay? Of course, that's usually my style. But is there any feedback? Should we make some changes in the style?
We will see if there is any feedback coming from devotees, and I will let you know, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. Okay. Do the Brahmacharis want to say anything?
There is a feedback which has come on the chat. Very good and interactive class.
Okay, that's from Gaurav. Okay, if there is any changes, any improvement that needs to be made, you can let me know. All right.
Yes, Guruji.
Okay, fine. Thank you all very much for your kind participation and attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.